Well, thank you. I really don't know where to start on the problems we have in the power sector. But I think the problems are getting worse with the change of gas from public to private. Like somebody pointed out, when it was public, it's quite understandable why you have to buy pole, why the community must contribute money to buy transformer because they are helping themselves because it's public. But to be frank with you, at the point we transited to private sector, some of us were out there to say it is not going to work. We're in the streets, nationwide. We protested, detained, soldiers were brought in against us, were called all manner of names. At a stage, Comrade Way, you followed me to even the EFCC that I disturbed them, I did this. So no agency that were not deployed, DSS, all of them, because we said this is not going to work and you can't hand over this sector to few individuals who don't know anything about it. And they came on three prongs approach that there will be foreign direct investments, FDI, that the people to take over must have technical and managerial ability. And they deceived us. When they now decided to do allocation to their friends and proxies of those in government then. And we shouted and shouted and shouted. As we talk now, most of the workers have not even gotten their entitlement. We failed in so many places. One, Nigeria is among the few countries that are suffering from power poverty. Power poverty in the sense that the global practice is that for every 1 million people, there will be 1,000 megawatts of electricity. And that's why, rightly or wrongly, if you go to South Africa, you'll be talking about 45,000 megawatts to about 45 million people. In the case of Nigeria, we are calculating about 200 million people with 4,000 megawatts of electricity. So there's no basis for you to even now argue why we don't have electricity. No basis for that. And then the 7 years, this is the 8th year after privatization, the so-called investors have not added 1 megawatt system. And that was what we argued then, that they are just coming there to increase tariff. Because, it will not favor them if they start constructing a power plant, if they can get the same thing by increasing tariff around 4,000 megawatts. Now you ask yourself, at what return on investment will somebody build a power plant? Now, a power plant takes you a minimum of maybe 4 years for you to construct. And then if you borrow money, it may take you, in fact, before you make profit on it, you may spend about 15 years before you make profit. I want to see that Nigerian investor, that will invest and expect his profit in the next 20 or 25 years. That is not possible. And that is why the 4,000 megawatts that you saw, you see what we are battling with. However, the installed capacity is more than that. We have over 10,000 megawatts. If you go to a Egui power plant now, you will discover that there are civil works already constructed. So what they need is to bring fresh turbines to increase the capacity in Egui. The same thing with Shiroro, the same thing with Kainji and other places. But the private sector we have on ground will not do that. Why would they? Because they can't even buy new transformers because it doesn't pay them. The directors, the investors need profit at the end of the month. So to go into a capital project of buying transformers, of buying new turbines, is not favoring them at all. And then they enjoy the protection of the Nigerian state, which says that they have to pay the shortage, and they will tell you they generated maybe 5,000 megawatts, and there's a shortfall of 1,000 megawatts, and government pays under what they call the subsidy. As at now, government was paying them 1.7 billion every day for subsidy, and we're asking them, what is subsidy? What are you subsidizing? Are you subsidizing incompetence? Are you subsidizing that somebody couldn't? And this subsidy includes, technical and non-technical losses. It includes when somebody is not able to collect his revenue after sharing bills. Now you are not able to collect your revenue, and then you say government should pay the shortfall. Now the competence here, even in terms of revenue collection, in terms of efficiency, whatever, is what they call a cost reflective tariff. Some of us now started engaging them that how can you talk of cost reflective tariff? What is the cost? Who determines the cost? When you buy new vehicles, when you pay the people in dollar, when the MD earns 10 million, it's part of the cost factored in, and now they take it back to the consumers. Nigerian consumers will continue to suffer. In the first instance, power generated in Nigeria is dollarized. They first of all put the price on dollar, and then when they put the price on dollar, from generating point, they move it to the transmission. The transmission will equally calculate the value of the dollar and then transfer it to the consumers, and they will make profit on this. So you now start to ask yourself that the gas we generate in Bayelsa or River State, why must we put dollar price on it? And they will tell you that they are buying their equipment in dollar. And I don't know any plant in Nigeria that was built for over 30 or 40 years ago that they are talking of buying their equipment in dollar. That is one aspect of the problem that some of us have refused to understand up to now. Secondly, they charge tariff based on the forex. If the value of the naira falls and dollar increases, they have to increase tariff. Clearly, if there is inflation, by any percentage, they have to increase tariff. Now you start to ask yourself, how can any country in its right frame of mind agree that immediately the currency changes, the currency changes, you increase tariff? Now the increase in foreign currency, assuming it goes to 500 naira now per dollar, the discos are supposed to review tariff with NEC. And then we confronted NEC, because even as of today, by this Friday, we'll be concluding the work on the federal government tariff committee. They said we should go and do some job. We asked NEC, why are you doing this? NEC said it is part of their job. NEC in its policy has a provision, for engagement of people. They must do consultation, proper consultation. And now I asked the NEC chairman 2 weeks ago, now after consultation, did you carry out the outcome of the consultation you had with people? And he said that nobody will agree for tariff increase. And I say, okay, now why are you consulting? If you consult and people tell you don't increase, we can't pay. So why are you still consulting people if you know that you're not going to carry out the whole essence? Now they said they must equally increase tariff twice in a year, what they call minor tariff, 2 times a year, despite the issue of increases in dollar, forex, and devaluation, and inflation. I think that is why in the next few months, in the next few years, the tariff to be paid by consumers will be unimaginable, because these indices will continue to increase. They are not constant. The issue of the currency, how it fluctuates, is not constant, and it's not the problem of the masses. It's not the problem of the worker that the currency is increasing. And then we have now argued that, look, let's first of all price this gas in naira terms. If we can't make available the quantity of gas we need to generate electricity, if we can't have gas to power policy, because Nigeria started building gas power stations when it is expensive, when they know that gas power stations are emergency power stations. At most, that's what countries do. But some hydro plants in the country, despite the fact that they are generated by hydro, they are still charging us the same tariff, as those with gas. Feasibility studies in Zungeru and other areas have been concluded, for a long time. And up to now, those ones that are supposed to be through hydro, government has not done anything. At our level that decides to go to the market. It is difficult. Countries go to the market when you have enough power 24/7, and then the problem will now be on how to collect the revenue. The whole country leaves its own generation capacity to the private sector. There's no private sector that have the capacity. At what interest rate are they going to borrow? If anybody borrows at 25% interest rate, as an investor in the power sector, he will pass it on to the consumers and still make profit. So, and we continue this way. But the state, if it is Nigerian state that is constructing such power plant, I want to assure you that even the issue of 25% interest rate, some of us will not consider it until Nigerians decide to ask questions on how the power sector was sold, because there has been about 7 tariff increases from the time it was privatized to now. But before now, for 10 years that NEPA was there was no tariff increase. The government didn't allow it. The government was not subsidizing it. The 1.7 trillion government said it has used in subsidizing the power sector, government didn't put 1/10 of that for over 10 years that the public were controlling it. Now that brings us to the question of who is the owner of the power sector as of today. Why will government still retain 40%? Because government privatizes 60% and still controls 40% and still pays the private sector whom it sold its own facility to and still pays them about 1.7 trillion. And the same government has not asked whether there's 1 naira profit made on its 40%. So it's like you sold 60%, you handed over 100% to them, and then you release money to them, either to refurbish it or whatever. So it is a miracle. And I think Nigerians should ask questions, because ordinarily, if you put 1.5 trillion in a power sector that there's no pole, there's no power plant, there's nothing, by now we should be aiming about 10,000 megawatts. So we can't continue to say we are assisting the people in the power sector, we're assisting them to move on, when in actual fact, we don't know the owners. I think we can start a single process of trying to know who owns a big power station, who owns EKG Electric, who owns Abodi Electric. And you see that most of the people you are seeing as chairmen of such companies are proxies. Some of them don't have 1% of shares. So the owners of these companies are their spirits. This is very important, and we have to look at it critically, because we have been scanned. And unless you ask questions, I really don't know whether protests will equally solve the problem, because this dialogue, some of us have been involved in it year in, year out. We have taken it to the National Assembly. I took it personally to Jonathan, and he said, "Comrade, I've heard all that you said, but this process must continue." So it's like there is a force from outside, telling Nigerians that they must privatize, and that force, I think they are abiding by it. When President Buhari was coming to power, some of us asked questions, and he tried to say he was going to do the right thing. Today, we are seeing a different thing. Why can't he reverse it? And I've asked him, the privatization policy is not the policy of APC. It was a policy of PDP. Can we ask questions? Can we review the process? Can we look at how far we have gone? And the responses we are giving is that everybody is keeping quiet. I pray that this new process of interrogating the process on what is in existence, we are going to get somewhere.